we were talking about all sorts of geography and why you're allowed to be a fan of a certain team. What are your rules for fandom? Because for me, I have some very strict ones when it comes to the bandwagon teams. I feel like if you're not a fan in the state or if you didn't go to that school, maybe you shouldn't be a fan. But I get that not all states have professional sports teams. So sometimes you got to pick and choose. What are your rules for fandom?
So I guess rule one of a fandom like Fight Club is we own none of the teams, so therefore we shouldn't be against all of the teams, right? We don't own any of the teams. But I think when it comes to fandom, you got to know something before. So let's say you're 30 years old. You should probably have at least known something about the team that you like 10 years ago. Like if you're just talking about a team 2, 3, 4 years ago, and this is your everything team, then like you don't understand how free agency works. You're like, why still? Like I grew up a Cowboys fan as a kid. I don't like the Cowboys now because I wasn't going to stay with the Cowboys for the rest of my life. So the teams that I like, and it's multiple, they have some type of tie to them. So I'd like for you to have a little bit of tie to the team, even if like a player you bumped into at the store and now you're a fan of that team. That's perfectly fine, But know something about the team. Don't just like, okay, so I'm going to say the team because the Celtics played the Nets. Like the Nets. Like suddenly once KD I guess for them, like KD graduated from the Golden State Warriors and took a job with the Nets, and now they're Nets fans. Like, oh, sorry.
I don't know anybody like that. I think we saw that with
Oh, yeah.
LeBron. There was a lot of LeBron fans that
Followed
became
him.
Heat fans,
Yes.
but I feel like nobody did that for KD. Am I
Oh,
wrong?
yeah. No, a bunch of Nets fans. They couldn't tell you 3 players from a team 6 years ago. Most of them. I don't say all
I don't
because that's too much
know.
of a
I feel like it's a
generalization.
fan base that has withstood some hard times, and I do respect the true Nets fans. I think that is where, from a logic standpoint,
Yeah.
you shouldn't have to have any qualifications to be a fan. It's your leisure activity. You can do whatever you want. It's a free country. But
Yeah.
I
Rule
think it's
number one.
aggravating when we see people who pick and choose teams who are just, good teams. Like we all know that person who is a Yankees, an Alabama football fan, and a Duke basketball fan.
Ugh.
Those people are the worst.
Yeah. I can't disagree. Yeah, they're the worst. Duke especially. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So, one final fact or fiction before we graduate to the actual fact or fiction segment. Fact or fiction, you can call your team we when talking about your favorite team. Say, we lost yesterday. We won yesterday. Do you
Fiction.
believe in using the
Fiction.
pronoun we when talking
Fiction.
about your team?
Fiction. Again, rule number one of fandom is we don't own the club. So, I mean, no, we don't. We don't own the club. Yeah,
Well,
no, there's
here's
no
the thing.
we.
I get it. You're not on the team, so you can't
Yeah.
really say we, but I think we have all done that before. I have done that when talking about my Titans. I say, we're terrible on the secondary. And then I think to myself, well, I'm not on the team. So let's bring in a third opinion. Let's bring in producer Matt to do a little fact or fiction. And before we do the sounder, Matt, my question to you is, do you say we when talking about your Nets?
No, I do not say we.
I love Matt.
That
Yes,
is
thank you.
All right,
that
so
is
let's
that is
go
journalism
into
101.
fact or fiction. Let's fire that sounder.
Fact or fiction?
All right, and just on the other fact or fiction from before, Nets fan, have been since 2003. So
Fair
Wear
enough.
it proud.
Fair
You
enough.
can name
Yeah.
all the players, though.
the
Yeah. So
number
you
number
so you
one,
probably donated to the Jason Williamson prison fund. No, I'm totally
Oh,
kidding.
God. Jeez.
He gets that. It means he's a Nets fan. Okay.
all right. So moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted than the misery of my Nets fandom. Um, Today is Jackie Robinson Day across Major League Baseball, and they are going to commemorate him wearing the original Dodger blue for the very first time. So, fact or fiction? I'll start with you, KJ, because you're the guest. 42 is the best baseball movie ever.
Oh, yeah. If you're talking about in terms of understanding the importance of Jackie Robinson to the game and an important aspect of the game, absolute fact. If you're looking for comedy and relief, it doesn't get better than the first Major League. So I'm going to go fact because the importance of 42 and Jackie Robinson in baseball. So yes, I'm going to go fact with the best baseball movie.
I don't know if I can have an opinion here because I have not seen the movie 42. So, not sure if my opinion matters too much. But we're not talking about the importance and the storyline because you could read about all of that in books. You don't have to see the movie. So, strictly from a movie perspective, I think there's maybe some better baseball movies out there. For me, it's Major League, it's The Sandlot, Bull Durham. There's so many
Yeah.
good baseball movies. So, it's a crowded field for great baseball movies, but I have not seen 42, so I'm not sure if my opinion matters here.
Yeah, the first time I saw 42 was actually on a cross country flight. I was just like, oh
Ooh.
wow, this is already on a flight, so I was impressed. It was like very
I
soon
think
after the movie was in like for available for home theater.
I think it's interesting. Probably two of the top five best baseball movies are just numbers: 42 and then 61.
What's
I love
61?
both of
I've
those
never even
movies.
60,
heard of that.
61's the Roger
Roger
Maris
Maris.
movie. Yeah.
Oh. All of these
Yeah.
movies I need to watch. These are the movies that you think to yourself, I probably should watch these, but instead I end up watching some dumb movie and instead it does not
Well,
make me smarter.
well, you just got to remember two numbers: 42 and 61.
Ooh.
All right, but sticking with baseball, the Cleveland Guardians now, many have probably thought that their offense was going to be a little lackluster this season, but they have scored an obscene amount of runs. They've scored 10 runs several times this year. They have a 4-2 record. So, factor fiction, Chelsa, do the Guardians have a chance at winning the AL Central? I believe they're at plus 800 right now.
Plus 800 should tell you something. We are what? 6 games into the season? Do not read into this too much. Yeah, it's a nice surprise. And obviously, you want to be hitting well and you want to start off the season hot, but let's not jump to any conclusions. Baseball, we've said this many times on this show, it's a large sample size sport. And so let's look at the odds right now. The White Sox are still minus 200 to win the AL Central. I do not see them succumbing to the Guardians. And even the Twins and Tigers are ahead of Cleveland when it comes to the odds. So I'm going to respect the odds makers a little bit on this one. Maybe it's worth a shot, but remember, it's a 162 game season. Do not read in too much when it comes to the first 6 games of the season.
So it's interesting that you mentioned how much of a run that Cleveland is on. There are 5 teams in Major League Baseball right now that have a negative 10 run or more difference, and 2 of them are the Royals and the Tigers. So just on that alone, they have a shot, but I don't think they catch Chicago. So they'll be right behind Chicago. I'm still going to lay with the money with Chicago winning the AL Central. So that's fiction that the Guardians will win the AL Central, but they'll have some pretty interesting series against Chicago later in the season when I think the rest of the division just kind of sits at bay. I think we can already kind of say that the Tigers and the Royals have a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, I mean, I got a Twins future the day that they got Sonny Gray. I got them at plus 900, so I'm rooting for the Twins. But let's be real, it's probably going to be the White Sox. Um, I kind of like the Tigers too. I've been taking them a lot in the money line, but they're having a lot of trouble scoring. And then Jose Ramirez can't be this amazing all year long again. But, I mean, he could prove me wrong. So we'll see. But moving on to another great baseball city, Los Angeles. Much like Chicago, it has a very rich history of baseball. So, factor fiction, KJ, do you think Los Angeles is worthy of being called a top 5 baseball city in America?
Fiction, because the Dodgers isn't theirs, right? So New York, Boston, Chicago, that would be 3. I'd have to put Cleveland in there because they're passionate about their team. And I'd also have to probably throw Houston in there. And here's why I throw Houston in there. Um, it's the only thing they have going on over the last several years. And they have really picked it up. So I would put Houston ahead of me. And then maybe I would even put San Francisco probably a little bit ahead of the Dodgers. Well, I'd put them in that same category. So I would tie the Dodgers and San Francisco. So false or fiction, Los Angeles is a top 5 baseball city behind New York, Boston, Cleveland, Chicago, and Houston.
Hell no. Are you kidding me? Have you seen
Absolutely.
these Dodger games? Have you seen the fights
Yeah,
breaking out
Mary
between
Hart from
Dodgers
ET sitting
and
right there. Mary Hart's there.
no, listen, I've been to a game at Dodger Stadium. My husband pitched against the Dodgers. It was a Tuesday afternoon during the regular season. This was not a high stakes game. They were playing the Reds. There were fans adamantly booing my husband. It was a sold out crowd. And listen, that stadium seats 56,000 people. This is a great home environment for the LA Dodgers. And I get it. LA's not a great city for sports, but I will say Dodgers fans are rabid. They are very
Well,
intimidating when
yes.
you go to the stadium, when you see the postseason games. They are very into this. So I'm inclined to say LA is not a great sports city, but I will say Dodger fans, they're usually very passionate. So I would put them in the top 5.
Now, Chelsea, you said something very key in that about the game that your husband pitched in. You said it was an afternoon game. That's why so many people were there, because the evening games, people are showing up in like the 5th inning. So it was packed on a Tuesday afternoon because it was Tuesday afternoon.
But
So
it was
yeah,
a Tuesday afternoon game against the Reds. It wasn't, Dodgers Yankees.
oh no, I totally understand what you're saying, but I'm saying it was Tuesday afternoon where you can get there because of LA traffic. Tuesday night, you're like, I thought LA was like this big town where all the people in the 5th inning they all show up. So it was kind of one of those things. You saw LA in its during the daytime. They say if you go buy a house, you should go look at it at night just to really see what goes on. You pretty much went Dodger Stadium during the daytime when everybody can get there and the traffic wasn't an issue. So
Well,
it's
that's
not
not the only game I went to. I
okay.
went to the whole series.
Well, yeah, I would
Listen,
expect
I
that.
think go there in person. It's a huge stadium. Most of these stadiums, like, I don't know. There was a
It's
ton of
in a
people there.
ravine. You put the Brooklyn Dodgers in a ravine. Kidding.
Yeah, that's kind of weak sauce. But yeah, I think for me, you look at great baseball towns. I think New York, obviously, people love the Yankees. St. Louis, I think, should be up there because they certainly love baseball now that
You're
football is
right.
officially gone. But I'm putting LA up there.
I'll put St. Louis instead of Houston. Flip my St. Louis for Houston. You're absolutely right. St. Louis, I mean, when you're talking about beer in baseball, you're talking about St. Louis, like headquartered.
Yeah, St. Louis definitely has to be up there. I'll keep this short. I was in LA for opening day once. It was a day game. I didn't hear anybody talking about the Dodgers the entire day.
Really?
Yeah, I know they have like their
Will you
like
read my
really
script,
fans,
please?
but I was just like, it's opening day. Like I know you're playing the Padres, but my gosh,
But that's a rivalry.
yeah,
It's not the
like,
Giants, though. That's their rival.
yeah. Either
I
way,
mean, yeah,
I
yes.
was disappointed. It's not gonna beat New York. But moving on to basketball, Zion Williamson, as we probably all saw that clip the other day, he did that nice 360 windmill dunk before the game, and now there's been a whole bunch of speculation in regards to whether or not he will play this postseason if they can get past the Clippers. So, fact or fiction, Chelsea, will Zion play another game for the Pelicans this year or next?
Ooh, I don't have a super strong opinion on this one, but they'll probably trade him. I don't think that we'll see him this year. We saw him doing windmill dunks. Clearly, he's healthy. There's some sort of reason why they're holding him out. I think they're trying to make sure he stays healthy, maybe so they can trade him. And we have seen things really go south for stars in New Orleans. We saw it with Anthony Davis, that stalemate that we saw between those two sides before he eventually got shipped out. So I think it's probably a fact that Zion Williamson has already played his last game in a Pelicans uniform.
I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to say fiction that he'll play another game for the Pelicans. Him doing that windmill 360 dunk in warmups before a playoff game was the equivalent of Peter cutting up the fish on top of the TPS reports on Office Space. Like, it's his way of saying, I don't care about this job. You can do whatever you want to do. I don't want to be here. Because think about it. If you're injured, the last thing I would want the training staff to do is, let's say, have him do a 360 windmill dunk in street clothes for the most part. Yeah, Zion's out of there. I think the Pelicans realized that for them, it was a way to get people in seats to buy season tickets, and that's happened. But they now also have CJ McCollum. They have like a real team there. I'm not saying that Zion doesn't make them a real team, but Zion's got to really address some of his girth issues, if I'm being nice here.
God,
In terms of
dirty.
like, yeah, what time is the 8 ball segment, huh? But But yeah, he's got to really concern. The teams have got to be concerned about how big this guy is trying to do those dynamic things.